Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta munulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Busel mu fine.
What?
Busel mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Accent Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Busel mu fine. Wave, your money is yours.
Secretary General and leader of the Gambia Moral Congress, but he's here to drink not coffee. He's decided to go for water. With us for the next hour or so. If you'd like to get in touch, either with a question or comment for him during the course of the conversation, the number we are using is 77115-9977-11-599. My Ahmed Fati, welcome back to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. It's not your first time here.
Thank you very much, Kato. I am privileged to be here once again.
Fantastic. Tell us about the GMC. What's been going on? We hear about the UDP doing this. We hear about the GDC doing that. We hear about Sobeya doing so and so. What about GMC?
Thank you very much. We are now part of the NPP Grand Alliance. And as such, substantially our activities have been imbued within the NPP political framework. As significant allies within this establishment. Our political activities are coordinated in line with the president's political agenda. And this is why, whatever we do are mostly within the confines of the alliance. That is not to say that GMC does not have its individual activities, but within the framework, we pretty much work in close collaboration with the Grand Alliance. And so the Grand Alliance activities also constitute our activities. Yes, and we would like to continue to work on those bases.
Fantastic. Some of us who don't understand how politics works, maybe need some education. Because from the beginning, you were part of the coalition that helped Barrow to, assume power in early 2017, following elections in 2016. It was called Coalition 2016. Then, well, as the media would put it, there was a fallout. You went on your own, said things, about, Barrow, but now you're back, supporting him. How does it work?
Well, first to clarify that President Barrow belonged previously to United Democratic Party, and the alliance consisted political parties, of which GMC was a member. And so the support for the candidature of President Barrow was within the context of political parties coming together to front a single candidate. And as a result of that, we won the elections with the massive backing of Gambians. Subsequent to that, a government was constituted, in which I was appointed Interior Minister. The President exercised his powers under the law to relieve me of that responsibility. And I continued on my partisan politics, on the umbrella of GMC. So GMC had always existed from the beginning, since 2016, while President Barrow was also with UDP. So it is not like I was with Barrow and then left, but I was Barrow within the context of a coalition like UDP itself. He is not with him today. So today, politics is all about consultation, it's about collaboration, it's about human conduct, it's about human welfare. And these things evolve, they are not static. So during the course of several discussions, both sides came to the determination that it is useful in the national interest to combine our forces in order to continue to propagate some of the impressive development activities the President had undertaken and is undertaking. Why? Because GMC feels a lot of those development goals are also contained in our manifesto. And if the president is substantially performing many of those that we share, it is only natural that we should come together to strengthen, that trajectory. And this is why we are in alliance again.
Mm-hmm. And you spoke about consultations. Who initiated those consultations that, have now resulted, in the GMC working with the president rather than against the president?
Well, we have never actually truly departed away from each other. The president has been working with the UDP, but even while I was out of cabinet, politics. My personal relationship with the president predated our politics. It was since
I understand you went to school together.
Since we are much younger, we all came from the same region, and we've been together since school days. Since we are all wearing shorts, so
we all wore shorts.
Absolutely yes. But the fact that there was political divergence at some point did not preclude the continuation of our personal friendship, because we understand that politics is different from the person, in the sense that politics should not be an instrument to cause schism within personal relationships. That you may differ politically, you may belong to different political camps, but it should not adversely impact your personal relationship on grounds of principle. So that persisted. So it's very easy for two friends to spark up a conversation again. It's very natural.
Mm-hmm. So you haven't allowed politics to cause any schism between you and your friend Barrow, but have you seen politics causing schisms between, politicians who might have been friends before?
Yes, I did not, and the president did not allow it either. And because there was a sense of maturity that continued to prevail. Sometimes I'm very critical of some of his policies. This is because DMC would have taken a different stand. And the president understands, as a political party, which does not belong to me alone, I represent a view, a position. So if GMC adopts a position, it may not necessarily be my party speaking on that position. But we understand that difference of opinions do exist, but we do not take it to heart. Now, yes, politics has dismantled relationships in our communities. I can tell you for sure that in different parts of the country, families do not talk to each other. It has destroyed family relationship because one family is supporting one party and the other is supporting another. Villages have been almost at arms against each other because one particular village is a diehard of one party and the other is another. So politics is causing a lot of havoc simply because some politicians, who are doing great disservice to our country, believe that this is the only way that they can survive, by dividing our people. I deplore it, I condemn it. Politics should be a difference of ideas, but it should help to harmonize and consolidate our social fabric and our social relationships. This is what we believe in. That's why we call our party Gambia Moral Congress.
Absolutely.
Moral considerations are very important in politics.
Absolutely. Yes, you made a point there that you don't always see eye to eye on issues, and even maybe, steps taken by the president. In those instances where you've come out publicly to criticize decisions he might have made, how has that affected relations between the two of you?
Well, it's not easy, and I can understand clearly. Peter, one has always to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. One must always be objective. It is not easy when President Barrow stands at a public platform and criticizes my party. Naturally, I might feel disappointed. After all, this guy, we've gone a long way. Why is he attacking me publicly? So I can understand if some of my political views, expressed, are seen in such a manner by the president, and I will not hold it against him. But I try as much as I can all throughout this period to be very mature about it and not to be personal. And if we have any disagreement, it would be on policy issues. It would be simply because we believe that specific government policy is not very germane to existing circumstances, or the policy that the president may be advocating is not being properly implemented by the implementing agencies and persons within his government, or he may be misinformed about the policy direction in implementation. And so it is our responsibility to point out some of those inconsistencies the president may not see or may be misinformed about by people around him who may not be very sincere to his agenda. So sometimes some of these criticisms are very genuine and they are very sincere. They're intended to bring to the president's attention public perception about the impact of government policy. But for someone like me who has access, I think it is useful, instead of going public, to sit down with the president and acquaint him of what the situation is. And I try to make very good use of that at every opportunity.
Okay, but in the rare instances where you've gone public before maybe, reaching out to him, how has he reacted?
He's been mature about it, and he has never at any point in time expressed in any awful manner, and he would once or twice engage me, but in general he would be quiet about it, because the president understands that every public statement I made would not be vindictive, would not be out of spite, or would not be intended just to cause issues, but would be perhaps if there is a burning issue happening within 2 to 3 days. And the president's schedule is so busy that it is not easy, or it is impossible for me to reach him. Because the presidency is a huge responsibility. It is not every time that you wish to see the president that you can see him. That is the nature of the office. Not because he doesn't want to see you, but because the burden on him is so onerous that he would like to see you but cannot see you. And sometimes it is necessary that communication should reach him. So sometimes he uses the media to communicate to the president. Yes.
Fantastic. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Because very often you hear people, voice criticism for having been asked to go to State House to see him, and they spend hours, sometimes the whole day, without getting the opportunity, to see him. But you are just telling us how difficult it can be to see the president.
Yes, and it is not a matter of course that you want to see the president, you must see him, and that is how it should be. If the president is always available at all times, then we should wonder what is he doing there. He should be very busy with the state affairs, with matters of governance. He has several ministries and departments, several agencies. He's also conducting international diplomatic intercourse. And besides, he's also head of a political party. So there are too many issues. He's also a family member, a community leader. He has friends and associates. He has multiple responsibilities. And we must understand he's only one person. Everything is calling for his attention, and everything towards the president is urgent. But the president looks at not only urgent matters, but also important matters. So when you have a cascade of all these things bundled up as one, on the head of one person, it is extremely difficult. Like, it's natural. He has a family. He has 2 wives, he's got children, family responsibilities are there. And sometimes family issues alone can exert pressure on you. Then you have national issues. He's battling national security issues. As Minister of Interior, I knew there are times when the IGP will call me 3 a.m. in the morning. Oh. He will wake me from bed. Times when I'm enjoying a good family time, the Director General of Immigration would call me on a matter. Times when I would get up at 1 a.m. in the morning, get into my car to go and attend to a specific situation when people are sleeping. And I'm just minister of one sector. The president is the head of all government. He's also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And now we have diplomats all over the country. There are issues when a particular ambassador must relate only to the president, not even to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, depending on the sensitivity and the nature of the circumstance. But the president is one head and who must handle all these things. And he must do so competently, maturely, with serenity, but also in detail. So it is not an easy thing, and we Gambians must understand. And sometimes you get it wrong, and he is bound to get it wrong sometimes, because he is human. He's not perfect. So we should not expect the president to perform a miracle at all times. We should expect that he will make mistakes, like all of us. But we should also expect that there are times when the president is also unhappy, because he's human, about situations that has nothing to do with governance, but other external matters. We should expect he should be concerned when he is attacked and criticized, like all of us. We should expect that he should be happy when he is praised, like all of us. So he is human, he is not superhuman. So expecting the extraordinary out of him would be trying to create an angel out of a human being, which is an impossibility. It's like squeezing water out of stone. You will fail. So whereas we have limitations, the president also does have his human limitations. But suddenly he's greater advantage because he's got experts around him, he's got policy advisors, he's got exposure to materials, he attends high-level meetings, so he is informed. Then he is taught in the process, he learns, he matures on the job. He has access to tremendous information, exclusive, most of us do not have access to. So it is also, a situation where he is expected to perform better because his access to a number of resources is phenomenal, which we do not have. So the presidency must be understood as an office, and so we must respect that office because it is a public office created by the public, created by the Constitution. We must not belittle the presidency. It is the highest majesty on our land, and he embodies our sovereignty. And we must understand it is not just any simple office that anybody can say anything about. It is the reflection of our national will. And he embodies that. He carries that on his shoulders. And we as Gambians must understand, recognize, appreciate that, and also react towards that office in a solemn and respectable and dignified manner. That is what is demanded of us as Republicans.
Fantastic. You have an understanding, obviously, of the presidency that Barrow didn't have when he became president for the first time. Why are you not trying to become president in 2026, instead choosing to support his third-term bid?
Well, nobody ever went to any classroom to learn how to become a president. Even those who may be professors in political science may theoretically be equipped with the skills and the knowledge of the highest office. But it's a different matter when you are there. When you sit down on that chair, you are now the chief of state, the chief executive of the state. It's a different ball game. Nothing ever prepares anybody adequately for such a huge, onerous responsibilities. So I would admit that I have been preparing to become head of state well before President Barrow. In that, my party had existed, and I had aspirations of becoming president of the Gambia much before him. But I've also recognized that he has special skills. I've recognized his ability. I've recognized his teamwork abilities. And his extraordinary tenacity for listening. You see, it's very difficult for a lot of leaders to be patient and listen. The president will listen to you for 1 full hour. He will not interrupt you even once. Even if you're making a lot of nonsense, excuse my language, even if you're speaking something he hates to listen to, he will still listen to you. I have recognized this as a very rare skill, ability in leaders, because most leaders don't have that. And so in the year 2012, I contacted the president while I was in exile and had recommended to him to be the leader of the GMC as way back as 2012, yes. And I told him, Your Excellency, Adama, I would call him as a friend, I am out of the country. And it's very difficult for me to get enrolled in grassroots politics, what is called retail politics. And having known you as a friend and your abilities, and being conscious of the fact that if you have the right environment around you, you could be a great leader. I want you to consider taking up the leadership of the party. I will be outside to mobilize resources and funds and make you president. So I had this idea of getting President Barrow become president way back in 2012, and he will admit to that. I'm speaking at a public platform. So the relationship goes a long time, way back. He never even thought he would be president, but I thought he could be president. And with the right environment, of course, the environment can be polluted. The environment can be marauding in sometimes, and there can be state capture. But over a period of time, you can become a great leader. President Barrow was not at the beginning. He made a lot of missteps in the beginning due to inexperience and a lot of things. But today, it is not the same Barrow 2016 we are looking at. He has succeeded politically to disintegrate a lot of political forces that were marshaled against him. He's still here, and he'll be here in 2016, inshallah.
2026, you mean?
2026.
Okay, all right. Yes. Don't take us back to 2016. You spoke about the possibility of there being a state capture. Is there a state capture? Because there are people who are claiming that there is state capture.
I mean, let us be honest. Every president suffers from state capture. Every president, even the most sincere and genuine ones. I'll tell you, for example, John F. Kennedy, who is considered one of the best presidents in the United States, was a victim of state capture. What is state capture? The president's environment is limited. He sits down at State House, and he is not like you and I, going into society, mixing with people, going anywhere we want at any time. He is, by the function and nature of that office, restrained. The president is the most restrictive person. His freedom of movement is restricted by nature of the job. I have freedom of movement, by the Constitution. The president cannot enjoy that. I have freedom of speech. Even with that is limited. Today I can go to the market and stand at the top of my voice and say anything I want. The president doesn't have that opportunity. So his access is also limited to ministers, to senior government civil servants, to his political operatives. Of course, he has a huge access through government system. But the president, in terms of person-to-person contact on a daily basis, is restricted. So he relies on information. He relies on data provided to him. He relies on feedback from within the government system. He reads the news, but the news also can be doctored in order to create an impression. So he relies on these things. Sometimes they are heavily diluted. And he is human. He is not superhuman with a superhuman brain to know everything that is happening everywhere. So like me, who would listen to my wife and my children, the president listens to his ministers. He listens to his policy advisors, his technocrats. And each of them may have their own agenda around him. And if 2 or 3 people gang up and say, well, okay, I want the president to act this way towards this, and there is 3 or 4 people close to the president agree at the back of the president, one goes and advises the president, well, Mr. President, this should be the approach. The president, okay, no problem, I heard you. Then he realized, he said, well, there are 2 or 3, A and B, let me consult A and B also. But A, B, and C had already colluded that their opinion should be the same to the president. So when the president asks B and C, they give the same opinion. The president doesn't know what transpired behind. He is most likely going to say, well, this appears to be the consensus. That is how state capture comes. It is not deliberate, it's unconscious. And every president, to some limit, to some extent, becomes a victim of state capture. And the president doesn't have the ability to always verify, always clarify, because the people he relies on to verify may be the same people capturing the information. You know?
How do you avoid that?
By wide consultation. Exactly. You consult widely. For example, on issues of diplomatic nature, call a professor at the University of the Gambia. Call him. This is what is happening. What is your advice? It's not within your system. You are most likely going to benefit from objective information. Call your colleagues in the opposition. Call an opposition leader. This is a matter of national security. On national security issues, I believe we should all be one. What is your approach? How do you think we should treat this matter? Listen to him. If it is politically colored, you get away from it. If it is objective, you take it. You know, call a youth leader somewhere in Bansang. This is happening. What is your perspective? You consult widely outside your circle. It will help you illuminate some of the distortions that are unwittingly imposed on you by the people around you. You must not always rely on your technicians, but you must rely outside your technicians to broaden your horizon and to enable you understand better what the issues are. You can also read, you can even invite a major journalist who understands better. Sometimes even call an international figure. The state should arrange for that person to come to you so that you can be adequately educated and informed. Sometimes when it's a diplomatic issue, travel with a former diplomat, whether it belongs to the previous government, another government, or even another country. Bring an expert to help you understand better what the issues are so that you can make informed judgment and better decision in the interest of the nation. You must not limit yourself to the few people around you. It's very important to always bounce the ideas against others. Mm-hmm. That's very important.
This may be a very difficult question to ask. What do you think of the people he surrounded himself with? Are they all genuine? Do they all understand the type of legacy? Yes, he wants to leave a legacy, but the type of legacy he wants to lead and to leave, sorry. And do you always think, he gets the best advice?
Well, I would not talk about the people around him in a subjective manner, but I believe the president does not always have the best advice. I do believe that. For the simple reason that advice by nature is not binding on the president. I was his special advisor, but the president was not bound to take my advice.
Of course. Yes.
I have an obligation to speak my mind to him in an objective manner, but the buck stops with the president. So sometimes the president may not have the best decision because under certain exigencies, the nature of the circumstance may demand the president to make instant decision. and there is not the luxury of time to investigate further. In those circumstances, the president must rely on his judgment and the people around him, because there isn't enough time to consult wider. But anytime you realize that the impact of your action has not produced the desired result, as a leader, you have the obligation to retract, to change that decision, if necessary, apologize if it is adverse on the population, and take a different course. It is always noble to acknowledge a mistake, particularly when you are dealing with public interest, to change course totally, and be wary of those giving you that type of advice. I think the president is no one is perfect. So when something goes wrong, it is always wise as a leader to acknowledge that it is wrong, and then you take corrective measures.